Have you heard about Clubhouse, the invite-only drop-in app that everybody's been talking about lately? It was recently valued at over $1 billion and has hosted everyone from Oprah to Elon Musk. The party line is back and we've all been invited to listen in. And if you've ever wanted to eavesdrop on conversations between interesting people, well, this is the app for you. Hi, I'm Rahaf Harfoush. Welcome to United We Stand, the show that covers advanced internet culture. Today we're talking about the rise of audio social networking apps as the newest addition to the digital landscape, and we're deep diving into Clubhouse's culture in particular. And let's start with the basics. So what is Clubhouse? Clubhouse is an audio drop-in social network that just lets people get together and have conversations. Okay, so obviously there's no video. You only see a person's profile picture and you hear their voice. It's kind of like the digital reincarnation of an old school party line, but this time it's global and there are millions of people on all the time. The main screen of the app is called the hallway, and here you'll see a list of all of the conversations that are taking place. Conversations are hosted in rooms that have two parts: the stage, where people are speaking, and the audience, where people can pop in and listen. If you're in the audience, you can raise your hand to come up on stage to ask a question and to participate. It's pretty straightforward. Now, you find interesting conversations by following people and by following clubs. So if you want to talk about digital culture or wine or marketing, there's a club for that. If you want to learn a language or sing karaoke or discuss politics or books or TVs or movies, there's clubs for that too. In fact, there are clubs for just about every single interest. Plus, you can also find people and follow conversations based on these broad subject tags from the search. So when you follow someone on Clubhouse, you'll get notified whenever they are speaking in a room. And when you follow clubs, the club programming, so the scheduled rooms of what that club is doing, gets added to your calendar, making sure you're always in the loop of what's happening. Now, the more you curate your feed, the more clubs you follow, the more people you follow, the more relevant the suggestions that you'll see will become. And if the person that you follow follows you back, then you can now ping each other or send notifications to each other to pull them into relevant rooms if something really cool is happening. So I'm not going to get into the full details of all of the specific features, but I will link to some great resources in the video description. Let's take a step back and talk about the audio landscape. So one of the things that makes Clubhouse unique is its audio-only format. But we can't underestimate the role that timing had in Clubhouse's popularity. The pandemic was the perfect mix of people being trapped at home and being completely burned out from all of these endless Zoom calls. So the introduction of an alternative where you could casually socialize in an informal way without anyone having to see you was just perfect. And personally, what I really liked about Clubhouse is it put an end to all of this back and forth of trying to schedule a good time to have a FaceTime or to Skype, when you're trying to coordinate like 10 different people's calendars. On Clubhouse, if you see that your friends are online and you're available, you could just hop in. And this works because thanks to the app, I've been able to catch up with friends that I have not heard from in years and also make a bunch of new friends, which is pretty cool considering I've been stuck at home for the past year. Now, my friend Jeremiah, he calls this audio-only landscape. The reason it's so popular is because it's called the Goldilocks effect, right? So text is not enough and video is too much, but audio hits the sweet spot. It's just right. And let's not forget that emerging research has shown that video chats can be pretty draining because of these combined stressors of trying to interpret nonverbal cues, to navigate technical glitches, and honestly just the bizarreness, the absurdity of seeing our own reflection reacting to things for hours every single day. Audio takes the pressure off. It's the equivalent of bumping into somebody on the street or in a coffee shop. It feels personal, but at the same time not as intense or demanding as video chatting. Plus, there's no hyper curation. There's no pre-recording. For now, at least, everything feels natural. And interestingly, while Clubhouse was one of the first, this space is rapidly expanding with both Twitter and Facebook announcing their intent to release similar products. Now, investor Mark Cuban is also working on a social audio app that's currently in private beta. And according to Jeremiah, there are at least 28 companies in this space and growing. Now, this does make me wonder about oversaturation. Like, what's going to happen when there are 50 options for us to have these drop-in audio chats? How will this fragment the community? How will this impact the audio landscape's capacity to scale? How will different brands flourish on different audio platforms? Who will be attracted to what platform? Will people try to build multiple audiences across these platforms? And what will that do to the influencer economy? What will that do to personal branding? So these are some of the questions that I'm thinking about as I'll be researching them in the next couple of months. So Clubhouse itself can be a little confusing when you first sign on, right? Because at first you're just confronted by this hallway with all of these rooms and all of these people and all of these chats, and you're just like, what is going on? It can be a little rough, and I've seen a lot of people have a bad experience. There are a few types of rooms that you can open. Let's start with this, right? You can open a private room where you invite whoever you want into a secret chat that's not visible to anybody else. You can open a club room that's only available or visible to people who are a part of your club. You can open what's called a social room, and the only people that will see this room are people that you follow. So it's more of like the people that you're immediately connected to. Or you'll open a public room that's available to everybody. Plus, there are different types of rooms that you can have on Clubhouse, different formats. The most often cited or written about are the fireside chat events, which most closely resemble a conference keynote, right? You'll have a small number of people on stage talking about a specific topic with like a CEO or an expert and 1,000 people or thousands of people listening in the audience. Then there are smaller rooms that resemble a coffeehouse chat with your friends. These are pretty informal, just a place to catch up, to hang out, to have a laugh. And then there's everything in between. There are moderated conversations, which are actually some of the most common rooms that you'll see on the app. This room size can vary from 10 people to 1,000 people to 3,000 people. And here you'll see a group of moderators that are discussing a topic, but they're bringing up people regularly in batches to ask questions and to interact with the speakers. Now, this conversation involves a wider group of people who can participate, and these are my favorite rooms because I tend to learn a lot from them, and it's a great way to find new people to add to your network. Plus, there are some pretty cool creative initiatives that are happening on Clubhouse too. A few months ago, members of the musical theater community performed a live production of The Lion King, complete with singing. It was amazing. There have been live concerts and live plays. For example, my friend Min Do, he co-produced an original play that was written about Clubhouse on Clubhouse and performed on Clubhouse to Clubhouse users. It's called Once Upon a Clubhouse, and it was fantastic. Axel Mansour, who is the current face of the app, he runs the Lullaby Club, where every night on the West Coast, he plays acoustic songs, and everybody speaks in a whisper to keep it really chill. On the other side, you have musician Bomani, who runs his Wednesday night Cotton Club room, which is like a lively jazz club where everyone changes their picture to a black or white image of a jazz musician, which is considered like the dress code. Then there's just like comedy acts and trivia nights and networking events. It's been really interesting to see how creatives have been adapting to this new landscape, especially podcasters. For example, my friend Baratunde Thurston, he has a podcast which is amazing called How to Citizen. And he started hosting listening rooms on Clubhouse where they listen to the podcast episode together and then they have a great discussion about it afterwards. Not only does this extend the life cycle of the podcast episode, it adds this really great interactive feature for his community who want to discuss these ideas with him. And a few weeks ago, I participated in a room to celebrate the launch of Adam Grant's new book, Think Again. Now, Adam spent nearly 2 hours giving insights into his research process, framing the book points, and answering questions from the audience. The room maxed out at its 5,000 person capacity. And I just kept thinking, where else would you have access to insights from thinkers like Adam? So I'm super excited as this app continues to develop to hear more from writers and thinkers and entrepreneurs that I really respect. Also, funnily enough, I was surprised to note that for an audio app, there are a lot of silent rooms. There are silent meditation rooms, silent co-working rooms, and I think this speaks to the power of digital presence, that even though it's an online platform, we still find ways to be together, to feel like we're a part of a group. Recently, there's been this rise of silent networking rooms where you go in silently, browse bios, and try to find people that you think are interesting. And the community has had a really mixed response to these types of rooms, right? Some absolutely hate them, some people love them, but as the user base grows, these types of rooms are becoming more and more common, and I'm seeing them pop up in different languages as well. So as you can see, there's a lot going on, a lot of content you might not even see unless you're following interesting people or clubs. Plus, you can have a lot of different experiences in terms of the types of rooms on the app too. So for example, if I'm just doing admin work or email, I might pop into a room just to listen to a panel conversation on something that I find interesting, right? Versus if I want to socialize or discuss something, I might open a club room and just hang out with my friends. And if this sounds like a lot, it's because it is. Many of these rooms have different vibes, different trends, different rhythms, and you can only understand them after you've been on the app for a while. Plus, there are also a bunch of unwritten rules and community norms that have been created. So because the app is audio only, the community have developed their own workarounds and best practices that are shared from user to user orally. So for example, people often use their profile picture to make a point. And so the term pull to refresh emerged, or PTR, as a way to signal to people that you've changed your picture to something relevant to the conversation. So if you hear PTR, you scroll down, you refresh the room, and the pictures get updated. Plus, there's also resetting the room. And what this means is because so many people are popping in and out of conversations that have been ongoing for hours, it's really likely that you'll come into a conversation midway. So every 15 to 20 minutes, one of the mods we've gotten into the habit of just giving a little summary of the conversation so far so that people can catch up and participate. Another fun thing is that if you agree with what people are saying, you can flash your mics on and off real quick, and that symbolizes digital applause. Now, these norms have been created by community members and not dictated by Clubhouse. But unfortunately, it is not all friendship and rainbows, right? There are some use cases that do have me a little bit worried. I will say for the most part, the community is filled with really good people, but there are some things that I'm noticing that I do wonder how they'll develop, especially as the app continues to scale. So here are a few things that I've seen that I'm kind of keeping an eye on or that I'm concerned about. So first, audio at scale is a whole new ballgame, and it can be a nightmare for misinformation. I have seen anti-vax rooms, conspiracy theory rooms, and other types of misinformation rooms that are attracting thousands of people that run like 24 hours a day. And unlike text, there's no way to fact check what's being shared after the fact. And that's going to create a lot of problems. And I wonder how this will evolve as the app gains more users and room sizes continue to grow. What will happen when we have a room of 200,000 people, or when somebody can start a room with 1 million people in it to spread misinformation? Now, this is not just a Clubhouse problem. It's actually a larger trend of ephemeral content like self-deleting messages or self-deleting Discord servers and secret groups. So it is getting harder to track the impact, the footprint of these messages. This is why services like WhatsApp are trying to place limits to stop mass forwarding of misinformation. And I'm sure Clubhouse will have to think through some of these issues as well. The second thing I've seen is the rise of scams. So Clubhouse has seen an influx of people who are deliberately targeting others with fraudulent offers. Now, I wrote about some of the different types of scams and how they've evolved on Clubhouse on Medium. So be sure to check that out if you want a deep dive. But as with any social networks, you'll have your usual suspects, get-rich-quick schemes, investment opportunities, MLMs, how to build $1 million business in 30 days. And one of the initiatives that I've started to keep on top of these trends is a weekly meeting in my digital culture club called the Anti-Grift Squad, where a group of us, we get together and we evaluate and analyze how these predatory approaches are evolving to help people stay safe and aware. I'll give you an example. So we have seen people who have been pretending to be literary agents, music execs, investors that are cheating people out of money. And there's this never-ending stream of coaches and spiritual experts that I've heard give like really weird and potentially harmful advice. My point is this: scams are a normal part of social networks, and containing them requires constant effort because any policies that are put into place are very quickly subverted. So one example of this is a few months ago, some of these scammers started photoshopping blue badges on their Clubhouse profile pic to make it seem like they were verified users, even though that doesn't exist on the app. And then after Clubhouse said that's against the terms of service, people just switched over to putting things like professional Clubhouse moderator in their bio to try to pretend like they have a higher amount of credibility. And what sucks is that these people, these scammers, have these big rooms that are in the hallway all the time. So imagine you're new and you come onto Clubhouse for the first time and all you see is a bunch of these like schemes and scams and all these how to be a millionaire rooms, and then you just get really turned off. So finally, we cannot seem to have a social network or a digital space without trolls, and Clubhouse is no exception. We've had our variety of bullies and people who harass people who are racist or sexist, people who like to disrupt other rooms for no reason other than just to be a jerk. So this is a fight that we're fighting because the app is continuing to try to introduce new features to report people and is taking a very serious stance against trolling. I've also been watching the emergence of all of these adjacent ecosystems where people are now providing apps to extend some of the Clubhouse offerings, right? And this is really fascinating. So you have apps that are going to help you redesign your bio, or apps that help you share your events with the people in your social network. It'll be fascinating to see how our experience of Clubhouse is going to change with these new features. Now, I will offer just a word of caution. I'm not saying these are scams. I'm just saying if you're going to use one of these new services, as with any feature online, read the terms of service, especially if they're asking you for your login information to make sure that your data stays safe. So now that you have a lay of the land, I want to answer the question that I get asked most often, which is how do I have a great experience on Clubhouse? So I do have a couple of tips. Number one, be very picky with who you follow, as your choices will inform the algorithm and determine what events you see and what suggestions the app makes for you. So only follow people that deliver good value content. I often see new users that rush to quickly follow a large number of people early on, and honestly, I think that can be a mistake. Take your time, listen to people, get to know them in different rooms, and then decide if you like what they have to say enough that you want to include them in your regular Clubhouse experience. And if you find somebody that's really cool, check what clubs they're following or that they're a part of and join those too. That will help further refine the experience that you're having so that you start seeing really good content. 2, try out the different types of rooms that I mentioned earlier to see what format works for you. You might find that you love large rooms or that you really prefer private rooms or smaller rooms. So once you know what works for you, you can further improve your experience and you'll be able to tell what rooms to enter and what rooms to absolutely avoid. 3 is be intentional with your goals. What do you want? Do you want to learn, meet people, share your ideas? Whatever it is, be clear about it, because otherwise you will fall into the Clubhouse rabbit hole. There's always a room open. There's always something going on. So if you're not careful, you can lose a lot of hours. And honestly, I can attest to this firsthand because when I first got on the app, I went a little wild and I was on it for like hours every day. And now I have a much better picture, a much clearer strategy of how this app can add a lot of value to my life and to my work. 4, please do your due diligence. People write whatever they want on their bio. So before you buy something or hire someone, just check those people's credentials. If they say they're an investor, check them out on Crunchbase. If they say they're a music exec, ask to see references. Ask them to email you from a professional work email. And don't be afraid to call companies to confirm somebody's position. Listen, audio can be extra persuasive, and if somebody's a good salesman, they can make you overlook all of these red flags just by the tone of their voice and just by being charismatic. So do the due diligence. 5 is don't be afraid to explore beyond your bubble. Yes, I believe that curating an experience is really important, but so is discovery. So go into the calendar, see all the events that are out there, and pick something new, something that you've never heard of before. 6 is you have to manage your FOMO, because you are going to be faced with never-ending conversations with people that you find really interesting 24 hours a day. And this app will mess with your sleep schedules if you let it. So have an idea or a budget of how much time you want to spend on the app and stick to it. Also, philosophically, you just got to make peace with the fact that you're never going to be able to participate in everything. So consider turning off notifications if it starts to get really bad for you. 7 is don't fall prey to vanity metrics. I've been kind of disappointed watching people just race to try to get as many followers because I believe that this is a community-oriented app that's based on quality. I have been in life-changing rooms that have had 5 people in them and mediocre rooms that have had 5,000 people. So I wouldn't get too caught up in room size and things like that. Just focus on building a community of like-minded individuals and building good relationships, and that takes time. And honestly, that's going to be the most rewarding part of it. Clubhouse is really what you make of it. So also consider how you're going to contribute, how you're going to add your own twist or share your own expertise. Now, I get it. It's by no means perfect. I'm not saying it is, but with a little curation, with a little strategy, it's an incredible place to meet really interesting people. And I do wonder how the app is going to scale. I mean, what's it going to look like with 100 million people or 200 million people? I wonder how the algorithm's going to evolve. I wonder how it's going to impact how we're having conversations. So if you're on Clubhouse, I'd love to connect with you. I'm at Rahaf, so please feel free to find me there. And that's it. You've officially completed my crash course in Clubhouse's community culture. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of United We Stand, and I'll see you next time.